Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we kept going with the Void Crusade and actually have made some good progress. And now we will continue on this secret mission. We'll be fine, realistically. Sabotage that, that's easy.
Spectral scanning revealed multiple enemy assets of the highest importance. Locate and destroy them. May the Omnisar guide your hand.
Man, I really need to find a way to boost the AoE of my fire ring. I want to make it just stupidly large, but I think I have to dump a ton into like shards and psalm codes, and the psalm codes are going to be a challenge unto themselves. Plus, I don't know how long, realistically, this character is going to be put on the shelf once I finish this Void Crusade. Which I do apologize if it kind of annoys you guys that I don't bring these characters to level 100. But I feel like at a certain point, we kind of know where the build is going, and we're just sitting around kind of waiting on gear. And that's what kind of sucks, is it's not like Diablo, where I'll complain a ton about Diablo, but credit where credit is due, you hit max level pretty fast, and then the game's just like, yeah, do other stuff. Focus on your gear. Instead of this where it's trying to get you to do both. And stuff like the Paragon system in Diablo 3 I loved, because it sped up so much stuff. You know, you just sit there, dump a ton into one character, get their Paragon level super high, make a new character, and then you just be like, oh, well, you got a ton of points into lifesteal and into your damage, so now you can go higher difficulty. And the higher difficulty is like, oh hey, you get like way more XP, so you're gonna power level. And it just let you snowball and kind of get out of these ruts of doing a mission and getting maybe an 1/8 of your XP bar. I was thinking, which I know is always a very dangerous statement, but I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we had, and I know someone's going to say we already have this, but a shooter version of like Elden Ring or Souls games? And yes, we already have Remnant, but I'm talking full on like Doom. Doom with Souls-like levels. Like leveling, bosses, status effects. I think you could do a lot with that. And that's what I wish we would see more, is kind of hybridizing genres a little more. And one thing I really wish people would stop doing, especially with Souls, is reinventing the wheel. The number of games that are like, we can't do what FromSoft has done because they already did it. It's like, no, please, do what they've done and improve it. Don't be different for the sake of being different. You know, just because I look at it like this, if you want a piercing, like you want a nose ring, and a bunch of other people already have them, you can still get it. It doesn't mean you have to get a Prince Albert. Just do what you want. Don't be different for the sake of being different when it comes at your own detriment. Because games, the Souls essentially formula is salt. The reason they're still pumping these games out and doing fine is because they're doing well. That hurt. Like a lot. really don't feel like dying anymore. I'm in kind of a good spot, and I only got 3 lives left.
Inquisitor. Electrospectral scanning revealed info fragments of high importance in close proximity.
But yeah. I said this before with Necromunda Hired Gun, where I wish we would have gotten more Diablo loot in that and gone full Doomablo. Because, at least for me, I like Doom, I like Diablo. Give me both. Because odds are, if the game's good enough, I will be a simp and buy it and shill it to everybody. Why do you think I'm so interested in Rip Out? It looks good, so I'm willing to get it and play it. I am not a creator who sits around and is just like, what gets the most views? If I did, I'd be playing GTA RP right now. And as you can see, I'm not doing that. Or I would have done, well, I did Fortnite back in the day, but that was actually Fortnite Save the World, which got abandoned. Which is actually what I had gotten that game for way back when. Because I was like, oh cool, co-op game. And then they made the Battle Royale, and everybody just started throwing money hand over fist at it. And Epic was like, we don't need you anymore. It's the scene from Toy Story where Andy drops Woody. That was effectively what it was, is just getting dropped. Which sucked, but that's just kinda how things go. But yeah, like a Doomablo, once again, that's another instance of, like I said, hybridizing genres. I saw people talking, I haven't played it, I don't have the Dead Space remake. I've heard people talking about it, but I saw people talking about how you can turn on like content warnings, so before you open a door, it'll warn you about stuff. And it's one of those things where I don't know how I feel about it. On one hand, okay, it's whatever, it's an optional thing. By that metric alone, I don't really care. In the same vein, it takes away from the point of horror if you know what's going to happen. Seriously, have you watched a horror movie multiple times, and the first time, you jump, you get spooked, but then the second time and the third time, you're just going through and you're like, yep, and here's the monster, and the monster pops out. Or you know the tropes of horror well enough that you can predict when things will happen. I get that way sometimes, because some movies are incredibly formulaic, or directors are incredibly formulaic. But I feel like that happens, and by having these warnings, you're kind of removing the thrill. I get there are mature content, or mature topics that can sometimes be shown or discussed in games, and some people might not be all for that, but that's kind of what the ESRB is for. It's kind of like if you had a Mortal Kombat game, but you turned off blood. It's like, that's part of the game. You go into these expecting blood. To not have it is, well, it isn't completely, it doesn't ruin the game, it's, in my eyes, antithetical. it goes against the spirit of it. A big part of Dead Space is the shock of finding horrible things. It's going into this area, and every room you enter, you see something bad, and you're like, what the hell happened here? You can piece together parts of it through environmental storytelling, but it's this buildup of looming dread, which is something I absolutely love in horror. Jump scares suck. I think they're a very weak attempt at horror, and while they work, I will always quote Yahtzee from Zero Punctuation. Had to think for a minute, but I will always quote him. A pigeon can fly into your window and startle you, but it does not make it the equivalent of Stanley Kubrick. And that's true. Anybody can pop up and scare you. It doesn't mean it's a good scare. Looming dread is phenomenal. I felt looming dread in Fallout 3 because the environment built it. You'd sit there going through, and it's just ruined towns, bleak, no very little grass, no trees, or just charred trees. All you'd find is raiders and just chopped up bodies. And this dread just kept building, and then you'd find a town. And I remember there was one town where it's a bunch of inbred cannibals who've lived there since the bombs fell. And you'd find Pleasure Falls, and it's like, oh, these are slavers. You'd get to... there's one of the subway stations where it's cannibals living there who think they're like vampires. The family. But you'd find all these places and it's just this looming dread of like, oh god, there is no one good here. This area is hell. And then you'd get to Rivet City and you'd find it's this and the Citadel. Everything else outside, yeah, you might stumble into like the Republic of Dave, but for the most part, there's nothing good out there, and it's this looming dread of just like, what am I gonna find next? Yeah, it isn't horror in the sense of jump scares and spooky, but it's just kind of this dread of going through and being like, there is nothing out here for people. There's no safety, there's no civility. It is just dread. And I think it's a very good thing to portray. It is a very difficult thing to portray, and when you do it well. Ooh. Let me see that implant. Oh. Okay. Ugh, God, why are these so bad? Oh, the burning effects is actually nice, but it's only a 4 trait. Okay, yeah, so now we don't have to worry because we have every mission unlocked, so we can just burn through all these and crank difficulty and it doesn't mean a thing, because this is the final mission we do. We ignore this one, we ignore this one.
Electrospectral scans have revealed that the Xenox artifact is nearby, but it is protected. You must access the cogitators to gain access. May the Omnisar guide your hand.
Or you know, it'd be a cool hybrid genre. A extraction shooter roguelike. And I know, I said before, extraction shooters have been done to death already. But my thing, and I keep saying it, the PvE aspect hasn't been expanded on enough. Imagine, and we almost had this, a Dead Space game where you go through, you play solo, you can get some bots, or you can get actual player teammates, limited carry weight, you find loot, it has trade unit value. So you trade in your TU's worth of whatever for stuff. You get, I know Dead Space 3 had like weapon building. Needed to be fleshed out and not tied to microtransactions, but that's EA for you. But so you have that, and you go into ships to find stuff. Ships are randomly generated, maybe they're semi-random gen due to the layout. You know a Excelsior class Star Hauler has a certain layout to it. You know where the engine room is, you know where different things are. But a pirate one might have aftermarket mods. It might have rooms divided up different, or things changed. But then, like how it was supposed to be in Dead Space 4, you travel. You're going from derelict ship to derelict ship trying to scavenge whatever you can. Maybe you find the equivalent of necromorphs. Maybe you find bandits or pirates trying to take what they can and flee. Maybe there's government forces, or some AI system on the ship has gone crazy. You have all these different things, and because of limited carry weight, limited healing, no revives, it's a lot more difficult. Maybe you can get far enough to get the gear, maybe the ship's too big. All these different things play into it, and you can build up a horror aspect while creating this interesting situation. You can leave at any time, but you might not complete your objective and have to go into another ship later. Maybe you can mitigate things if you spend enough TUs on gear, or maybe you go in with very little. The only concern would be trying to rig up something along the lines of a scav run, if we're using Tarkov logic. The best thing I would say is you have a rudimentary set of armor and a pistol. That is your starter infinite supply gear, but it's garbage. But I think it'd be cool. It keeps people playing, because that's something I find boring with Tarkov, is you know where everything is. Oh, I can go to this room on this map for Easy Soleil was. Oh, I'm getting pushed. Well, I know exactly where they're gonna be. I know where Sniper Scav is on customs. I know each and every aspect. It boils down to that. Not I know it personally, but players know it. But if you can mix in some randomness, it becomes a lot different. And I think there's a lot of fun to be had there. But it takes people understanding what needs to be done for hybridizing, and of course, part of the problem is very few games are on the ball, because usually they're so far along in their development pipelines, they can't really deviate. Anthem, admittedly I'm using a terrible example, but Anthem was in the pipeline for from start of the pipeline to release, it was 8 years. They just didn't know what they were doing for 6. How someone managed to sit and produce no results for around 6 years is beyond me. I figure someone in corporate would have been like, hey, do you have anything? Year goes by, like, at the beginning they're like, no, we don't have anything yet. Okay, year goes by, do you have anything yet? We got some stuff. Do you want to show it to me? No. Another year goes by. Hey, it's been 2 years, do you got something to show? Yeah? Do you want to show it to me? No. Okay. Year 3. By year 3, if there is nothing to show, I'd have been like, look, you're showing something where you're getting canned. You can't tell me it's taken you this long to even come up with something. Not asking for a completed product, just that you have a clue.
Inquisitor. Electrospectral scanning revealed info fragments of high importance in close proximity.
But that's just the kind of the curse here is because games are so far in pipelines, some games are still chasing trends from, well, now it was still chasing battle royales.
Blessed scanning psalms have been executed.
But I think they kind of
Special info fragments
lucked out, studios have lucked out because the shift in popularity hasn't been super big. So it's like, oh, we were making a battle royale, so we added, like Apex, we added a little arena mode. Or, oh, we're gonna add an extraction shooter, so it's the same thing as a BR, just with a very slight change. You know, it's a BR, but you swap the hat. But I always wonder what the next trend's going to be, because if it's not a slight deviation, it is going to be a very rude awakening. And I think we're already, I said it before, I think we're already seeing a shift away from even the extraction shooters, simply because no one does anything different. I know art style-wise we're shifting back towards realistic, gritty grays and browns. The modern military shooter style from the late 2000s, early 2010s, which is fine by me, I like it. I personally think there shouldn't be a overall aesthetic trend. I think that should be a design choice. If you want to make something highly stylized, make something highly stylized. You want to make something that's just realistic, do it. But don't let the market dictate it. Because otherwise you get some weird stuff. I just realized I haven't heard anything about a Borderlands 4. And some of you might be thinking, maybe they aren't making one. No, they're making one. There's no way Gearbox is giving up on not Overwatch, on Borderlands anytime soon. That company will go under before they give up on it. Understandably so. Like, what else does Gearbox have going for them? If we're being honest, they don't have much. Like, they ended up screwing up Battleborn, which they could bring back now, but I think it's too much of a gamble. Especially because now you have Overwatch 2, which is dubious at best. You have Gundam Evolution, which I guess people also forgot existed because, like, nobody talks about it anymore. Which I don't blame them. I remember a few episodes back I said, oh yeah, I gotta download that and play it. I haven't. Flat out, I haven't bothered. A couple days ago I was like, I should really play that. And then I just sat down, fired up Fallout 76, and I was like, oh, I'll just punish myself with this. kind of the curse of the beast here. It's not interesting enough to really sell me, and the only reason I'm interested is because I like Gundam. Which I forgot to mention. I have a little Zaku model. A friend of mine, he got it for me, and we hadn't seen each other in a while. It was a Christmas present, but he forgot to... We just didn't hang out around Christmas, so we finally hung out, and he was like, oh, here, and handed me that, and it's cool. It's not a super complex one, but it's neat. I like Zakus, so... They had it at Target. It's one of the really simple ones, but it looks really nice. And now I have to get the other one, because there's a red... I think it's a Zaku 2. That's Johnny Ridden's. And I'm like, I have to get it. Just like if they released a Goof or a Goof custom, I'd have to get it. It's part of the Zaku line. Or if they had an ACK guy. Oh, I'd love to get an ACK guy. Even though they're goofy as hell, I love them. I used to play Gundam Frontline? Whatever the one multiplayer shooter is. I used to play as an ACK guy and just bust people because no one knew how to fight an ACK guy. Because they were trash. It's like how I used to play Urgot in like 2012, 2013 in League. Nobody played Urgot, so nobody knew how to handle him. And I just slapped people around. And then he got buffed, and then he became popular, and then I stopped playing because he was popular. I miss playing Urgot, he was fun. Alright. I think we'll call it here. We'll just do a quick item dump. Check the las pistol. It's also a las pistol. That sucks because it still sucks because it's a las pistol. I wasn't going to use it, but it had the 3 sockets. Actually, let's test something. You can add more sockets, I think. I'm not going to do it because it's a waste of a lot of money, but... Okay, so I might be able to do some wild stuff later on. Good to know. That does give me some interesting future prospects. But that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.